Okay. So last week, the last session, we started talking about um, file handling, right? So what is the first step that we do? We open a file, correct? Right? And to open a file, you need to give file name, correct? So let's say I give file1.txt. Now file1.txt has to be a text. So okay. So before that, before we talk about file, we can give absolute path or relative path, correct? So what is this path? Which path is this? Is it absolute path or relative path? That you see on the screen, is it absolute path or relative path? How do you know it's absolute path or relative path? Absolute path. Absolute, the name suggests all the thing, everything you have to give in the path. So when you give a location, if I ask you where is your file, you start from uh, you start from drive, right? C colon, right? That's called absolute path. This is relative path. Okay. This is I'm saying file. That means wherever I am there, from where I'm standing, from there only you start your file. So we are at this location, right? So file1.txt will be created here. You see file2.txt, file1 should be created here. Okay. Also open, and then you have to give a handle here, right? I'm going to say fh file handle. Now, when you open it, by default, it is opened in which mode? Read mode. Okay. Now, when I run it, it's going to throw error because file1 does not exist. So when you try to, how can you read a file which is not there, right? But if you open in write mode, W, then it will create the file. So when you open it, you see file1 got created. It will be blank. Okay. So, okay. And then we say fh dot write, right? And you can write a story and paste it, right? So, let me write a story. Write a story. Okay, so let me get the story for you. Okay, this is the story. Multi-line text. Okay. Okay. Once upon a time, there lived a deer in the forest who was gentle creatures. Okay. So this is the story. Now, when I say write, okay, fs.write, and when I run it, okay. So what does it say? Write takes exactly one argument. What to write here, right? So you have to say story. Okay. Write story. So now it knows, okay, I need to put story in the file. How does it know which file? So story, yeah, content we have to give, but how does it know which file to write to? fh is a file handle, right? It knows fl1. So now when you go to file 1, you see the story is written here, right? Yes or no? Now you go to P2 again, okay? And um, now I'm going to read the content from here. So, okay? So see, this is in write mode. Okay. When it is write mode, you can't read it. Yes or no? Okay, you have to open in W plus mode to read it, or you have to open in read mode. But I also told you that write mode will always delete the content and overwrite the content. So if I run it again, you see there will not be any change here. Okay. But if I open it in append mode, okay, and when I run it again, now you go and see what happened. Once upon a time there lived a deer. Okay. And okay, deer was so grateful. So what happened? End of the last line. What is the last line? Deer was so grateful. Deer was so grateful. Here, end of this line, okay, you will have content created, added. See? So it added twice. Or okay, here, once upon a time, where is one? Yeah, see here. Once upon a time. Okay. Twice it got added. So append will keep on adding. Now when you have to read it, okay, so you will say, we'll open it in we'll open in read mode. So I'm going to say fh. And okay, so this fh has to be closed, right? So fh, it's always good practice to close, okay? Whether you're talking with database or you're talking about file handle. So now I'm going to open in read mode only. File one is there, so you don't get error, correct? Now to read, you have three options. Okay, you have, see, write also have two options, write and write lines. Okay, write lines will take input as a list. So you can give each line as a value in a list, and then you say write lines list, write lines. Okay, S means take take input as a list and then put those multiple lines. So here you have three options. One is read option. So you say fh dot read. Okay, now if you do not give any value, it will read the entire content. Okay, so content, and you can display on the screen. Okay, print content. So fh.read will read entire thing. So you get entire content here. But if you want to read only first 200 characters, you say only 200 characters. It will read only 200 characters. Okay, it will read only 200 characters. Okay. Now, 200 characters is done. Okay. Now let's say if I do again read 200 characters. Okay. Again I do. So what happens is when you read 200 characters, you are stuck there. Okay. And when you read again, you are reading from where you are stuck. Okay. So it's going to read from 201 to 400. Okay. If you want to bring it back to zero, bring it back to original value, you have something called as seek. So file handle dot seek. Seek will tell you where you want to go. Okay, if you want to come to first character, you will bring it to 0 character. So now what happens? So this is reading from 0 to 200. Okay, and then you're back to 0, and now you're reading from 0 to 200 again. Okay, so that way, okay, I'm just printing one character, right? That's what the problem. I need to print it here too. See, exact same content, right? But earlier, if I don't put file seek, and when you run it, okay, so it is a continuation, right? It became a continuation of this. So that's what file seek is used for. You can move around, okay? Let's say I want you to print from 100 to next 300 characters. From 100, so you'll comment this, okay? We don't want it, right? And comment this, and you'll say 100, because from 100 I want, and then from 100 I want next 300 characters. So from 100 to next 300, right? So this is how you will give. Okay, so this is your file seek. You can read only one line. So if you want to read only one line, so you will say here file pointer file dot seek, right? And you can set to 0. And then I'm going to say, okay, print fh dot read line. Read line by default will read only one line. So when you run it, you see, okay, this print is coming, right? So let me comment this out. Okay, only first line is read. Okay, the read line also accepts character. Okay, so it's saying from this existing line, read only first 50 characters. Okay, now if I see 5,000, let's say 50,000, and that line does not have so many characters. Line has only 200 characters. So it's going to read only 200 characters. Okay, so it will read the entire line basically. Okay, it will not read more. If it doesn't have more, it can't read more. Okay, then this is it. Okay, now what I'll do is, okay, read line is left, right? Last thing, read lines. The read lines, okay, print fh dot read lines. Okay, read lines will read entire thing and return you as a list. Okay, see, it is returning you everything as a list. Okay, so read line will read all the lines, okay, just like read, but output will not be like a single text. It will be a list of all the lines. Okay, so these are some of the things that we do with read line. Okay, now I'm going to show you. Any questions so far? Simple, right? Yeah. Yes, it is so silent, no response. Okay. Now what we'll do, okay, we will talk about, let's say, JSON file. Okay, JSON file is an important concept. JSON, okay, JSON stands for JavaScript object notation. Okay, JavaScript object notation. Okay, this is what called JSON. Okay, advantage is, okay, you have to fetch data from server to UI when you're building a web application, right? You need to get data from web server to your UI, right? Your front end. Okay, and then you have to send back the data from front end. Let's say somebody submits a form and you have to take the data back to the database, right? Which is on the server again. So you need something like simple like text, okay, so that data can be easily moved around. Text is most simplest of all file to handle. Okay, other files are difficult, right? CSV or other things like it requires you to have other file types. So it's heavy, it's difficult to move. So text is easy to move around, but text is also difficult to analyze. So you get the data, but from the text, I need to fetch some data. So it becomes difficult to analyze. So JSON is a dictionary-like format. Dictionary-like content stored as a text. So what happens when you are handling with front end, it becomes like a dictionary. So using dictionary, you can easily go through, right? Key and value pair it will have. So you can easily access or you can go browse through the data. But when you talk about, and Java can also understand, Java also has a dictionary-like structure. Even for Python becomes easy because it's a dictionary-like structure, right? So that's the advantage of using JSON. So JSON in nature is a text file, but okay, for software, okay, like Java or Python, it is JavaScript, it's not Java, but JavaScript, it is also an object which they can understand. So it's not a string for Python, not a string for JavaScript. This dictionary for JavaScript, dictionary for Python. So it becomes easy to understand. Okay. So that's why we use mostly JSON format these days, and JSON format is very popular. So, when you get data, okay, mostly if it's text kind of data, you will get it in JSON format. If it is number kind of data, you will get it in pandas, what you call the CSV format, which you can use pandas, which we'll do after a couple of weeks now. Okay, so let's come back and see what JSON is. How to create a JSON file. I told you JSON file is simple file, which is, okay, you give start, curly bracket, and you give, like text here, right? Name equal to Sachin, right? You have then, um, mm, let's say sports, right? This is what we give, right? This is JSON format, exactly the way we give, uh, 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 we give dictionary object in Python, right? Okay. So this is like simple. You can even give um, you can even give values in list. So let's say if I say favorite shots, right? So you can say here multiple values. You can say here cover drive, square cut, right? And you can even give multiple values. So let's say if I say um, uh, teams, if I say teams, right? I can give, okay, here, okay. Now there could be multiple teams, right? So obviously, okay, within this, I will give like a dictionary, okay. So I'm going to say here, mm, we'll add team 1 here, and we will add team 2 here, okay. So let's say here I say team name, okay. You say Mumbai, okay. uh, Games, let's say you say Ranji, okay. I can copy the same stuff and put it here, okay. So instead of team name here, I'll say Mumbai Indians, right? And I can say here IPL, okay. So now, so this is how a JSON file will look like, okay. This is how a JSON file will look like. Now, I told you JSON file is mostly um, used as a string, okay. So what I'll do is I will save it like a string. So I'm going to say JSON str equal to, you give triple, right? So this is a string now, right? This is a string, right? This is a string. Now, this should not, okay, let's see, okay. Now, we'll try to parse and see. See, if it's a string, right? So now if you print it, okay, it will print like a string, okay. So it does not have the properties of JSON yet, right? It'll print it like this. Now to work with JSON, you have to import JSON, okay. First thing, import JSON, and you will have 4 methods available, just like we had methods there, right? Write lines, read line, read lines. 5 methods we saw, and we also saw last week writable and readable. Writable if the file is available for write or not, right? But mainly if you see 5 methods, right? Read, write, read line, read lines, and write lines. 5 methods we had there in handling with text. Here you have 4 methods, okay. These are load, okay, and loads. You have dump, and you have dumps. Okay. So when you are reading from a file, you're loading data from a file, you use load. So if your content is in a file and you want to read that content, you will use load. Load is to read from the file. Loads, loads. S stands for string. This is how I remember. String. That means if data is in string format, okay, on your screen, it is in the program, okay, it's in the variable, string variable. Already you have read it in a string variable. So you're not reading as a JSON, you're reading as a string. Then you use loads. If the data is in string, like here, data is in strings. So if I have to read this, I will use loads. Okay, so load as loads. Then dump means to write. So if I have to write a JSON content to a file, I will use dump. Okay, dump is used to dump into a file. Dumps. When I want to put it in a variable, a string variable, so I'll use dumps. Right? Understood, right? Usage is easy. Just understand which one to use when. Loading from a file. Loads, loading from a string variable. String variable. Dumping to a file, writing to a file. Dumps, string. Okay, dumping to a string variable. Okay, so now if I have to read this, okay, I have to read this and see if it is. See, this is if I type print type of JSON str, you will get you'll get string, right? It is a string. I want to read this. Now let's say, okay, first read it and then we'll try to make mistake and see how to see the mistake. Now this is your text, right? I want to read it like a JSON. So I'll say JSON object equal to JSON dot, what should I give? What should I give? I'm loading from string, isn't it? I have to say loads. Okay. Loads what? JSON str. Okay. Done. Now, if you want to print JSON object, no, not str object. Okay. You print it on the screen. Okay. So see, it is printed in a straight line. It is printed in a straight line. But advantage is you can use it like key value pair. Okay. So now if I say, now see, let's say if I had not given this closing bracket, if I had not given the closing bracket, this JSON loads will catch the error. This is a string, right? So this will not catch the error. Print will print it just like whatever you give. Okay, just like when we're passing SQL command, if you make mistake in SQL command, string will not catch it. When you run, when you say execute, right, cursor dot execute, that's when it's going to catch. Similarly here, when I'm going to load, right, this is going to catch. This will say, no, something is not right. Okay, something is not right. So you say, okay, this is where I made a mistake. So now you fix it, and now when you run it, it's all fine, right? So print this, okay, it will be printed. And if I want to, I want to, access a particular memory, that's the advantage of JSON, right? In string, accessing is very difficult, right? But when you convert it into JSON, it becomes like your dictionary. And okay, uh, let me first type, okay, the type. Okay, and here, so I'll say, okay, okay, I'll call the, let's say I call it name, right? Or I call it teams, let's say. You'll get multiple values, right? Let me call teams. So see, dictionary. So JSON has converted your string into dictionary. Okay, dictionary object is what Python understands easily. I mean, string also understands, but accessing data from string is very difficult, right? But string, you can pick teams. Now, if I say teams, you see, you got T name, Mumbai, and T name, right? So this is how you can perform these actions. Now, while printing here, okay, it is printed in this format. This format looks good, right? So if you want output to be in that format, here when you say print, okay, so let's print again. I'm going to print JSON object, comma, indent. Indent is not working. Indent is not there. Okay. So see, if I want to print on the screen, which function should I use? Print will print it normally, but technically speaking, we need to use dumps, right? We need to use dumps to print on the screen, correct? So I will say here, JSON dumps, okay, dumps equal to JSON dot dumps. I want to print it on the screen as a text format, and here I will add the JSON object, okay. And when you print JSON dumps, okay, see, this is like your normal dictionary, but here the advantage is, okay, let's run it and see, okay, name, okay. Now you won't be able to make any difference between this and this, but here I can go and say indent, okay, where in JSON dump only, not here, okay. So what I'll do here, JSON dumps, comma, indent 4 I give. Okay, so what it did, it created indentation now. You see, instead of printing in one straight line, what your dictionary would do, if you do dumps, it will print it in a nice looking format. Okay, so what we have seen, we created a string where we read string as a JSON object. So we read using loads. Then after load, you can you can when you read string as a loads, it'll convert into dictionary for Python, right? So dictionary for Python. So you can iterate, you can use it like a dictionary. But if you want to print it on the screen, so I don't want to print as I can print it as a dictionary also, or I can print it as a JSON object also. So to print as a dictionary, you simply do the print, right? Because it's already in dictionary format. But to print it like a JSON object, you have to say dumps. Okay, dumps will print it on the screen like a JSON object. You can use indent and okay. If you want to, so see the key is in the same order that we gave. But let's say if you want to, let's say order it, right? You want to put it in the increasing order. Okay, so we have something called as sort keys. These are keys, and I want to say sort keys true. Okay, sort keys equal to, and I say true. When I say true, short keys, okay, now you see here FNST, it actually sorted in alphabetical order. Even T name went down and games came up, alphabetical order. Okay, so this is how you can do that. Now we have the same content, let's put it in a file. Okay, do we have JSON file here? Okay, so I'm going to delete it, I don't need it. Okay, so I'll create a JSON file with the same content.
Swapnil?
Yes.
Indent equal to 4 means 4 spaces, right?
Yes. So see, 4 spaces. Okay. So this is like again Python, right? When you have this is first, like the curly bracket is from first position. Then inside this 4 position. Cover drive is inside favorite shot. So another 4 position, 4 space.
Okay.
So this is what intended. You can change it to whatever. You can change it to less than 4 or more than 4, right? But no, 4 is the most preferred intent, right? That's why even in Python, okay, you get 4. We can always go and change in the settings also, right? Okay. So once we have this content here, JSON, now I can dump it to a file also, isn't it? So, okay, so this is now how to dump to a file. Okay, I'm going to say JSON.dump, right? But JSON.dump, and then we have to indicate the file name, right? I can say JSON.dump, right? Dump as to the screen, and this is, so now you see here object file pointer. Okay, so file pointer is next. So how to do file pointer? Using fp equal to open. Now I want to write to a file, isn't it? So I have to give file name, say JSON file, okay, dot JSON. Dot JSON is the preferred way to give extension. Okay, so JSON file dot JSON. So this is file name, but I need to open in write mode. Only then I can write, isn't it? So I'll say write mode. So this is your file pointer. So file pointer comes second. First, what did it say? Object. So which is our object? Okay, our object is JSON object, isn't it? This is where we have loaded the content. This is JSON object, and I'll put here. Now when you run it, okay, code 0, you see JSON file.json got created. You click on this, see name Sachin Sports exactly got printed in this format. But what I can do is I can go and I can say indent equal to 4 here also. Okay. So where okay, so where did we put? In dump we put, right? So in dump we'll go and we'll say indent equal to 4. No error. You come here and you see it got modified with indent. So this is how you can dump to a file. So we know how to write a JSON file, right? What is the structure of JSON file? We know how to read from a string as a JSON object in Python. We are now writing to a screen. We are writing to a file. Now let's say I want to read from the file. Okay, so I'm going to close this fp dot close. I'm done. Now the fourth one, which we will load the content from the file and print it on the screen. Okay, so what we'll do here, okay, instead of Sachin, now let's put Virat here. Okay, so that we can see that output is different, not the same. So yeah, just save it. Okay, so it's saved. Save all. Done. Now I go to P2. Now I need to read that file, right? So to read, I have to open the file, isn't it? I'm going to copy and paste. Okay. Open JSON file.json in R mode, read mode, not write mode. Okay. So now to open and read, what is the function? Load, right? Load is to read, correct? So read. Now here I don't have to give JSON object, right? So because JSON object is to write into the file, write what? Okay. But read, I just have to say file pointer, right? So this means I want to read JSON file.json. So I'm reading JSON file.json, and now I need to save it in a object, right? I need to save it in an object because I'm reading. When you read, you need to save it somewhere. So I'm going to say file content or something like that. Okay. And now you print it on the screen. Print file content. And you want to see the type of file content, you say print type of file content. Okay. Now when you run it, okay. Did you see Sachin? Oh yeah, it says Sachin because we are not alone. We are doing all these things, right? So Virat got changed to Sachin again, right? So okay, if you want to see Virat, what we need to do is we need to move everything from here. Okay, we'll just move them away to our file, backup file. Okay, now we come back here and we say import JSON. Okay, and let's change it here to Virat. Now, when you run it, you see, the name is Virat. Okay. Okay. But if you want to display on the screen like a JSON format, what should I do? I have to say dumps. Okay, not print. Print will print like a normal dictionary. Okay, that's why it says dictionary. But if you want to print like a JSON format, you have to say dumps, right? Dumps will display as a JSON object, like a JSON template. Okay. So that's how you can use JSON object. You can read it, you can write it in a JSON format. Okay, it will be helpful. Make sense? Yes, everyone. So with that, we finish our core Python. Okay. Let's talk about one more concept before we end the day in Python, which is very helpful, which will be very helpful. I'm going to save it. Okay. Next, we'll talk about what is called as exceptions. Okay. Now talking about errors, okay, there are three types of errors that you can make. The first type of error is when you make syntax error, right? What is syntax error? You give wrong syntax, right? Instead of bracket, you don't give bracket. So if I say print, okay, and I say hello, and let's say I forgot to give quotation. Okay, and when you run it, it says, okay, error, right? So this is syntax error. So your program will not run if you make syntax error. Your program will not run if you make a syntax error, and it will tell you exactly where there is an error. So syntax error is the most easiest of all the errors to fix. The most easiest, right? Because it gives you the error immediately, gives you helpful text, you know which line, and so you can go and fix it, right? It tells you which line has error, so you can go and fix it. You can look at the message. If you don't understand the message, just Google the message, right? Copy the message and Google it. You will get help from other websites. You can come and fix it. So this is the easiest of all. Second type of mistake is what we call as logical error. Okay, so logical error is I tell you what is 5 plus 8. Okay, so if I tell you I give you 5 apples, okay, and I give you 3 more apples. So I give you first 5 apples, then I give you 3 more apples. How many apples you have? Right, so you will say 3 more, right? So you'll say 5 minus 3, 2 apples, right? So you'll have 2 apples, correct? Yes or no?
It will be 8, right?
It will be 8, right? So that's called logical error. Okay. Logical error is when you make mistake with the calculation, or instead of using plus, you do minus, multiply, and you're making mistake in the logic. Okay. And this is the most difficult errors to make, because you will see -2 and you will start saying 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You don't even know that you made a mistake. Okay. So this is the most difficult errors to fix. This is simple here, so you can easily know. But when you are doing some complex work and you make a mistake, small mistake, gone, right? So that's why what we have, we create test cases. Okay, in testing, when we write test cases. The purpose of writing test cases is where we say, okay, this is the input, this is the expected output. So if the input is 5 and 3, expected output is 8. So that's a test case would, in this case, would be, okay, enter 5 and enter 3 and output will be 8. Now when you say 5 and 3 is giving me 2, that means something wrong I have made here. So from looking at the program, you will not know what mistake you made. But when you create a test case, okay, and you have written those different test cases, and you see that your program is not running as per the test case, then you know, okay, I made a mistake, I need to do something. Okay, Now, when you know that you made a mistake, the main thing is the reason why we do, we sometimes do wrong is we don't know that we are doing it wrong, isn't it? So there has to be someone to tell you that something is wrong. When you know something is wrong, you can go and try and see where and what mistake you've done. So if you do not have a test case, if you do not know the 5 and 3 case should give 8, test case means predefined values, right? So if you give this, you should get this, right? So here, okay, in test case only you can catch this mistake. Otherwise, you will tell whole world that 5 apple plus 3 apple is 2 apple, right? Because that's what your computer gave you. So these are called logical errors. First one was syntax error. This is logical errors. Okay. Third type. Okay. And see, for first one, you know what to do, right? Error message will come and it's easy to fix. Second one, from programming perspective, there's nothing you can do. You have to write some test cases and you have to probably ask somebody else to see your program, to test your program to see if your program is working fine or not. And then only you will know that you made a mistake. From Python perspective, there's nothing Python can do to help you. Third type is called runtime error. Okay, or these are called as exceptions. Okay, so runtime errors are the errors that happen at runtime. Okay, so simple example is I tell you enter a number, num1 equal to int of input, enter a number, right? And now what you do is, okay, let's run it. And instead of number, you give a text character. Now the program will end. Now see, the program would have worked fine if we had not given, the character, right, t. But now that you have given t, your program will end. So this is called runtime. That means sometimes it can give you error, sometimes it will not give you error, and only at runtime. See, value of num1 will know only at runtime when you run it and when you get the value. You can't predict the value before, isn't it? So that's why we call this as runtime errors. Runtime error that happen at runtime. This is the error that has happened at runtime. Okay, error which has happened at runtime. Okay, so this is your error. Okay, fine. Now, how do we handle it? That's the key. Okay, so we have concept called except but before that you have try, except, else, finally. These are the 4 keys you have to remember. Okay, else and finally. Okay, okay, so easy to remember. Try is also easy to remember, and except is also easy to remember because we are talking about exception. So the line which you think can see, now there are multiple exceptions. Okay, that's what is this error? This is value error. If you see, this is the name of your exception, error and colon. Okay, so whatever name you have before colon, this is your exception. So this is going to throw value error exception. Okay, now I can show you one more. Let's say we have 50 by 0 we do. Let's say we do 50 by 0. 0 is, you can't divide a number by 0, right? So see, you get 0 division error. So this is the exception that you will get here. So, you don't have to remember the exception. You don't have to remember the exception at all. You make a mistake and you see, purposely make a mistake to see what all things can go wrong. When you're writing a program, okay, this is called robustness of your program. How robust is your program? Okay, robustness means not the way when things are done correctly, okay, but when somebody is trying to make error in your program, how much it can withstand. So that, if if here I was asking number, and you enter 5t, right? Your program is crashing. The program should not crash. You should not get error. It should exit or perform something more logically. Okay. So coming back to our example here, let me comment it out. We'll come back to it later. Let's first handle this. So the line which you think can throw error, okay, here it's all you have to predict, okay, you have to know which line can throw runtime error. So every line that you type, you need to be able to start thinking, oh, will this throw runtime error? Will this throw runtime error? The line which can throw runtime error, you put it in try block. Try. Try is, okay, handling the error. So here I'm going to say try num1. So you give tab because it's in the block, try block. So line which can throw exception has to be in a try block. Okay, so this is good. We have put it in the try. Immediately after that, you have to say except. Okay, except what? Value error. That means if there is a value error, then do what? If there is a value error, then do what? So you will say print you have not entered a valid number, hence setting it to 0. Okay, set it to 0, or you please enter, or not proceeding, whatever. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Okay, but you know now that this piece of code will be executed only when there's an error. Okay, so you can handle it this way. Then you have something called as, okay, else, right? Else means if there is no error. Okay, not always you'll have error, right? If there is no error, then do what? Then do else. Okay, you will say, okay, print number you have entered is num1, right? Okay. Then you have finally. Finally is used irrespective of if the error or no error. Okay. Will execute in both cases, error or no error. Okay, so here you can say print demo program for exception handling. How to handle exceptions. So exception handling. Okay, demo program for exception handling. This is how you handle exception, right? Okay, so now when I run it, okay, and if I enter number correctly, let's say 7, number you have entered is 7, and finally, and see, not everything is compulsory. Okay, you can choose not to give finally. Finally, not compulsory. You have to give finally. Okay, not compulsory. Else is also not compulsory, but we write, right? Because we don't always expect errors, right? Okay, so you can just write try and accept. That is enough. But you write else, because else means if it is correct, if there's no error, then do this. Finally, if there is a need for finally, you will do it. Okay, otherwise you don't. Most of the time I don't use finally, right? But yes, in case there is, you can. Okay, so yeah. And now if I run it, so this is like num and then else and then this, and then continue. Okay, if you have something else, it'll continue. Now when I run it again and enter a number, and I say 6 now. Okay, see, number you have entered is 6. Okay, but now when I enter 60, then you see, we did not get error, right? No deadline, no exit code -1, +1, anything. Okay, it has gracefully exited. Yes or no? So you know what to how to handle your program. So this is what exception handling is. Now you can have multiple exceptions. Okay, you can say except value error, except zero division error. Okay, so if you think these blocks, so you don't have to give just one line. You can give multiple lines of code. Okay, I can I can give this one here also. So let me give this one here. Okay, now in this case, okay, zero division error and print, sorry, can't divide by 0, right? So now when you run it, okay, I give number correctly 5, but then this is going to, raise exception, which is zero division error. Okay, so this is how you can handle multiple errors. Okay, in different blocks, in same block, same line can give you multiple errors also. Okay, and then you have something called as except exception. Now exception is a base class. Okay, that means, okay, all the exception will be caught by exception. All the exception will be caught by exception. So generally we give exception at the end. If you write except, right? So first except, second except, third, fourth, fifth, all the possible values, then you give except at the end, exception at the end. Because if you give exception in the beginning, okay, it will only catch the error, because exception can catch all the error, right? So if I give exception in the beginning and when you run it, okay, these except will never ever get called. So if I make 5t, so see, exception is catching it. Some error has occurred, right? But you know, in case we are not able to find the exception, that's when we want to use exception, because exception will catch all the error. So now if you make value error, this will catch it. If you make zero division error, this will catch it. This will not get executed. But let's say if I don't give zero division error, right? Let's say I gave something 1 here. No, I'm not giving, okay, it will not work, right? So let's say I don't give zero division error. Okay, I comment it out. Now, when I make zero division error, it will go to exception. So, so all, if it is not value error will not get caught. If it is not zero division error will not get caught. But exception will catch anyway. Whatever be the case, exception will catch it. Okay. So this is how you can handle exception. We have something called as, you can create your own exception also. You can create your own exception. You have something called as assertion error. Okay, maybe we'll see some other day. But now you need to know how to catch and handle the exceptions. All good? Yes, we'll stop here for today. We'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll start with statistics. Okay, we'll talk about statistics. Hopefully by this week we'll complete, okay, discussions, and then next week onwards we'll start, as Pratima says, we'll start with visualization. So Tableau will start. We finish off Tableau, then we'll come back to our Python, and then we'll get into last we'll do. So maybe another month or so we should be done.
You said some project will be doing on Python, like
Yes, I'm going to send that file. Okay.